got hurt besides hail fever.
Yeah. Can you kids imagine? I mean, we're in a kind of a gun control mode now with this election coming up. Can you imagine that they just getting guys off the street and deputize them and send them to the outdoorsmen and handing them rifles and ammunition and send them to the top of these buildings as snipers? I mean, it just tells you what kind of a different world it was 40 years ago. That's the thing I thought, wow, that's kind of interesting. We'll just load them all up and get them on top of the roofs and get ready to go. And I think Don's exactly right. You get people that aren't trained up there, they might do anything, you know what I mean? So that's a very good point.
Well, by the time they'd have filled out all the paperwork to get a gun, then everybody would have been dead.
True. Did they return the weapons, I wonder? You kids have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. I told him you were really quite an engaging bunch.
While it was happening, did you really think it was going to get away with it? Since it was,
I'm sorry, I don't.
when it was actually happening, like when you first realized you're getting robbed, did you think for a second there's no way you'll get away with this?
I'm sorry, I don't.
He said, Don, that while it was happening, did you think, well, there's no way he'll get away with this? Or what were you thinking when it happened?
Well, that's a good question, because that was one. We were in the vault so long without the lights or the air conditioning, it was quite uncomfortable. And by then, I got thinking that I had really done something wrong to get all of us back there in one spot. Nobody could get away from there except through that door. And I really worried about that. But because it was taking so long, we didn't understand why the police weren't doing something. And they were looking over the plans of the bank. It had just been built at that time. The Stockworth Bank was there, and the building was tore down. And we moved up to where the old music store is now for about a year. And then that was when it was built, and we moved into a new building. But I guess my worries were senseless at that point, but that's what was there. I don't know what was going on elsewhere. They do mention it, but what's Mark Hendricks? What's her name?
Oh, Margaret?
Margaret Hendricks. She and her husband always went hunting for elk, big ones, and so when some of that shrapnel would come loose and you could feel it and all, and she was standing right next to me like here, and we were shoulder to shoulder, and so I reached over and said, now you know how the elk feel when you're hunting. And she didn't, all she did was hit me. She didn't think it was funny at the time.
And there was a lady from Tinsley in there with us. She was concerned about getting to her bridge club one time. She was being, that was, I can't even think of the lady's name. But Bush, I think it was Mrs. Bush. She had a bridge club at noon. See, this started about 11 o'clock in the morning, and it was about 2 hours.
I thought it was even that.
Yeah. And anyway, she was concerned about being late to her bridge club. It's funny how things that go through your mind.
I had a lot of time to think.
Anybody else have a question?
So, after this, were you a little bit of a small town celebrity? Did people want to interview you and stuff?
Were you a small-time celebrity after this happened? Kylie asked.
Oh, I don't know. They tried to make it so, and I was just glad that, again, that nobody was hurt. That was the big thing. That's why I went out of my office when I saw the man go in this vestibule area, and he went out of sight and was gone for, well, maybe a minute. And he'd opened this gun scabbard, and put his hand in there and was holding the rifle that way. And then he came through the door and dropped his arm, and the scabbard fell off. And there was no question of what he had in mind then. There was people around, it was still hunting season, and there were people on the street with guns. So he didn't raise any suspicion before that at all. But,
They didn't have like, concealed carry permits and things. I mean, in those days, was it uncommon for someone to walk in with maybe a pistol on their waist at that time? Was that uncommon?
yeah,
It was uncommon or common?
common.
Yeah.
Everybody knew everybody then, and it wasn't,
There weren't a lot of strangers.
Mason, you got a question?
yeah.
Do you know what the criteria for the citizens on top of the rooftops to start shooting was?
What their responsibility was?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody directed them, they just ended up there.
I don't think they had a speech or anything before anything.
No.
But I think they just said, don't shoot any of our people and do whatever you have to do to the robber.
I know, there was a fellow that was on his way back from Thermopolis, and he happened to notice this car coming behind him with flashing lights in the grill. Now, they had an unmarked, it was a red and white, it was a '75 Chevy Impala two-door hardtop. And that's what the two FBI agents had. And anyway, he happened to notice these lights, so he went and pulled over, where the highway is wider out in front of the boys' school. He pulled over there, let his car go by, rolled his window down, and it was just, the car was gone. I mean, they were that fast. Imagine coming from Riverton to Worland in 46 minutes, through Shoshone, through the canyon, and through Thermopolis. They were moving.
The police had the streets blocked off in Thermopolis, as I understand.
They were rolling. And then we had about a week later, or maybe 2 days later, we had a little lunch at the bank for all the people that helped out. And Chuck and Fred came up from Riverton and kind of fill us in on what all they went through. They said they'd have been here sooner, but he had to stop and pick up, Chuck was driving, he had to stop and pick up Fred on the way, so otherwise they'd have been here sooner. Well, that wasn't true, but it didn't take them long.
How much money do you think was in the bank when you robbed it? Or tried to
Well,
rob it?
How much money did you get away with?
No,
None.
how much money was in the bank at the time? Do you...
How much money could he have gotten away with, maybe? How much money was in the bank, is just what she's asking, at the time of the attempted robbery?
What the tellers had, what, 15?
Yeah, I would guess each teller might have had $300 to $500 in their drawer, something like that. You don't keep much money in the teller drawer. In fact, I think
There was more money available, and particularly there's what they call a cannonball, in that back room that is, I don't know, so thick it's, however, the few years, in that same period, the bank at Thermop did the same thing we did when they rebuilt. And they left a period of time when it wasn't guarded, and some people took torches and burned through that, and were able to get the money out of that one. And that was quite a loss, I'm sure.
If you compare money, like, how many different tellers did you have, would you say?
3.
I think we
So
had-
there'd be like, you thought maybe $1,500 of accessible
That's
cash?
what I would guess.
Well, if you kind of compare that today, the best comparison I can give is in 1976, when I was a senior in high school, gas was 39 cents a gallon. How much
Yeah.
is it now? So you could make the comparison of maybe 8 to 10 times as much in today's money. So it's probably worth this. It was worth the risk for him if he got away with it.
If you'd got away with it, yeah, it was.
When it was sitting out and why he didn't, when we were there, why he didn't take it and leave it. I mean,
So when you guys were back in the vault and such, he had access to get in those drawers and take that money?
Sure.
And he didn't do that.
unless
That's interesting.
Unless the teller happened to lock it.
Yeah.
We don't know if that was done or not. I think there was $5 or something difference of what there was supposed to have been in the teller's cage and what was actually there.
That one was over.
Yeah.
$5 discrepancy. That's kind of it. So he took his $5 and got arrested, right? He got a good penalty for that, though. I mean, you think about what his what was his sentence?
What did he get, 20 years?
15 years in Leavenworth. Leavenworth is no cakewalk. So, anyway, interesting. Anybody else have any questions at all? Don't be afraid to ask. I guess I'd ask the question, I mean, you kind of emphasized it, but I mean, what's it like when you're sitting back there and you just hear 9, 10, 11, 12? You hear these shots and you're wondering, how long is this going to go on? I mean, what's going through your head?
Well, and not knowing where the guy was. Just to give you an example, we had 2 employees were upstairs in the furnace room. I mean, we don't know whether he found them or not. We didn't know they were there. Mary Hoffman and Tom Davis were up there. And
you guys know Lynette Gilmore, by any chance? That's Mary Hoffman's her mother, yeah.
And anyway, but you'd hear these shots being fired and having no idea what, just like one of them was in a closet down the hall from where we were in the vault. And then, well, and also there's a picture when the police and stuff started coming in the back door where their employees had gone out. He had fired a shot there, and remember, it went through into the carpet and bounced up into a desk in the back room. So, because he saw movement, and so he fired at that, and of course there wasn't anybody there, but the bullet ended up in the side of the desk. So, he knew how to shoot, but he wasn't very good.
I hope, I don't mean to put you in a bad spot to answer this, but for both of you, what was it like when you got home that night?
Oh.
When you got home that night and saw your family? Well, I mean, I know it might be hard to say, but I think it'd be worth asking, is that, you're in this thing, your family's going, I know Carolyn, my wife, was a senior in high school. And so, or let me think, no, we graduated, she would have been
18.
Yeah, she'd have been in her first year of college because we graduated, yeah. But anyway, what was it like when you got, what happened when you walked in the door?
Melted.
Melted?
Well, I received several calls from major papers from all over the United States, and they found about me, and they were following up on the hero thing, and it didn't impress me much at that time, and I don't think it would now. But.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm an emotional guy.
Yeah, and that's okay. I appreciate Lowell because I get the same way at times when we talk about things. This is a very tight group bunch of kids, and so they get that. You know what I mean? History is passion. History is emotion. There are a lot of things happen in history that are just give you goosebumps because they're so impressive. Yet there's some things that happen that are so sad you don't even know what to think. So that's okay. I mean, that's what history's about. We don't have a little passion, emotion with history. We're not alive. Anybody else have any questions?
No memorial services.
Yeah. Yeah. No funerals afterwards. And that's pretty unusual when they find. And Lowell had some pictures. I don't know what he has some of the where they marked each shell casing with a number along the floor. I think the pictures are kind of interesting when you look at, and you can see the vintage of things, from 1976 as well. But I'm biased because Don's been my father-in-law for 35 years, but I'm pretty proud of what he did. I mean, he saved a lot of people and did the right things, and Lowell did the same thing. They put themselves in the front force of things, and made it their top priority to get everybody to safety. And so, you know, that's something to say. So I appreciate them coming in and telling us, you know, their story.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You guys got any other?
None of you have to go through it.
Now, we're going to put you on the spot a little bit, Don. We got some time. Don is 89, and we just finished covering World War II. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did in World War II? I think they'd be interested to know that.
Well, yes, I graduated from here in '45. And I signed up to go back to the Navy. My mother would not sign a release before I got my high school diploma. And I was very unhappy about that. But anyway, that's the way it went. And 2 days after graduation, I had a appendicitis attack and had that operation. And I called the Navy and told them what had happened, because I was supposed to go in right away and go to boot camp, and told them what happened. And they said, well, take care of yourself for 90 days and we'll get in touch with you then. And that's what they did, but that's when I went to boot camp. And I was in boot camp, Company 418 in San Diego when the Japanese gave up. And we hadn't really heard about the A-bomb there, because you just didn't hear anything going on the outside. It was just, you just ate and slept and did what they told you for 12, 15 hours.
So you came in when you were able to serve, and because he's 89, we saw the 94-year-old the other day on the video. So he came in the latter stages, and so the war, the Japanese had capitulated and surrendered that time. Can you tell them the story you've told me about? Don was a teenager, not old enough to sign up, but he was kind of a big fella. Remember that story you told me about? People wondered what you were doing walking around town, why you weren't overseas, but you're only 14 years old.
Yes, I don't remember, Randy.
What? No, the story he told me is that when he was in high school, his mother wouldn't let him go to the service till he graduated, and he was a bigger kid, and so he would be walking around Main Street, and people would kind of wonder or question how come that he hadn't, you know, gone over to serve. Well, he wasn't old enough to serve yet, because he had to get parental permission. You told me that one time.
Well, yes, yeah, and it was worse on the troop trains that would go through, because my dad had the contract to haul the express that came in on the train, and invariably as soon as or maybe before the train with the express on it came in, a troop train would go through, and it would be at slower speeds, and I was called a draft dodger and a lot of other names at that time, because everybody felt that I was a little bit older than I was, and maybe that's what happened the other day, I don't know.
Yeah. Now, Lowell, we'll put you on the spot. We haven't got here yet. Tell the kids exactly what you were doing when you heard President Kennedy was assassinated.
Trying to think. I can tell you exactly what I was doing on 9/11. That was in 1963. Well, I heard it at the bank and went home, and Funky and I had just been married that spring, and we went to lunch, turned the TV on, and we had a little black and white TV, and watched it right then. Yeah.
How about you, Don? What were you doing when you heard that Kennedy was assassinated?
Well, I remember Mr. Muirhead came out and told us that Kennedy had been assassinated, and he was quite upset about it, more so than I was, but it was, and that's about all. I guess I went home and had lunch and took my usual nap.
Damn Republican, wasn't he? You guys have anything else to add? I thought you did just a really nice job. How about a hand for these guys for coming in?